Hey everyone, Daunter here. In today's video, I want to be talking about something a little bit interesting that I wanted to talk about. If you don't know who I am a Pokemon card YouTuber who reviews the many artists of the Pokemon TCGs. Recently, I've been sharing my opinions on certain things, which has been enjoyable. Their freeform videos are great, as they give me a chance to kind of share my opinions about what I think about certain Pokemon-related topics, and just things in general. More gameplay in the background because this is another freeform video. Yay, I love the freeform videos. Today we're going to be talking about something a little bit more interesting, right? Today we're going to be talking about full art trainers. Pretty much like looking at how far full art trainers have gotten, and also some critiques that I have with special illustration rare trainers and where I think that it would be better to put them. So this video is going to have a little bit packed into it, right? So what are full art trainers? So we have trainers in the Pokemon TCG that are characters mostly, mostly named characters, sometimes unnamed characters. But the trainers sometimes receive full arts with texture and a full illustration. Um, so yeah, that's the basis of my statement, right? That's what a full art trainer is, and we're gonna kind of look through like the evolution of full art trainers in the Pokemon TCG. Like for example, in the generation that they were introduced, full art trainers such as N from the set Noble Victories, which is the first full art trainer ever produced in the Pokemon TCG. There's only one in that set, so that's cool. But even through the entirety of the Black and White era, we only saw 8 full art trainers, which is really not a lot compared to what we see nowadays. So my first point as to why I feel like personally full art trainers aren't really that special anymore is that there really is just a serious bloat to the amount of full art trainers that we receive nowadays. And even though, like, in the X and Y era, after the Black and White era, full art trainers were clearly a hit. I think that, I think there was still a more reasonable amount. There's, what, 9? It's still a good amount, but there's not way too many, I feel. I feel like there's not really a lot. And something that really helps with these not Sword and Shield, X and Y and Black and White full arts is that the texture on those cards is phenomenal. So it makes each one feel a little bit more special. Like for example, in Ancient Origins, in one of the X and Y sets, there's only one full art trainer, which is Steven. And Breakthrough, there's only Brigitte and Giovanni Scheme. So there's only 2. Breakpoint, there's only 1. Fates Collide, there's only 1. Steam Siege, there's only 2. Evolutions, there's only 2. Like there's still not a lot of them, right? I know there's a lot more than the Black and White era is only having 8, but the X and Y era doesn't have that many either. And then we get into the Sun and Moon era where there are a lot more full art trainers. And I think we kind of just see that theme continue on with like the more recent sets. I feel like in Sun and Moon, the full art trainers still look pretty good because like the borders and stuff, and they still did interesting things. Like for example, they had the tag team trainer cards, like the Cynthia and Caitlyn, the Mallow and Lana, the Guzma and Hala, stuff like that, red and blue, to make it a little bit more interesting. But in Sword and Shield, I feel like we really saw an oversaturation of regular trainer cards. Like for example, in the set Vivid Voltage, there's 7 in that one set, which is a lot. Shining Fates, there's 8 in the one set. Battle Styles, it has 6. Chilling Reign, it has 9. No, it has... Wow, it has a lot. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 in that one set. Balmy Skies has 5, stuff like that. So we'd also see full art trainers in those sets. And also in the Sword and Shield era, there are also rainbow trainers, which is kind of pointless in my personal opinion. I feel like rainbow Pokemon is kind of more understandable, but rainbow trainers is kind of iffy. I feel like there's really no point in having a rainbow version of a full art trainer that's like, I don't know. And we would also see some pretty irrelevant characters as full art trainers. Like, for example, in Fusion Strike, there's a dancer full art, and then a schoolboy full art, and a schoolgirl full art. Those are pretty pointless trainers, not really named characters that hold like any significance, right? So I think that that's kind of like an interesting aspect to look at when we're looking at full art trainers, because in the Black and White era, all the full art trainers are pretty important characters, right? There's an N full art, Bianca, Charon, Skyla, Colress, Getsis, Professor Juniper, and Iris. So those are all characters that are named that have some point in the story, right? And though in the X and Y era we did see some like more pointless trainers, I feel like these do still feel a little bit more special since there are only 3 trainer full arts in each set, like around 3 or 4. So it feels a little bit more like balanced in that sense. But I feel like Sword and Shield is really the start of when we started to see these like pretty pointless characters in the sets, and that only continues in the Scarlet and Violet era. In Scarlet and Violet base set, there's a lot of full art trainers. There's what, 9? No, there's like 8 full art trainers, so that's a lot. Paldea Evolved is even more, so it's 6, 9, or actually it's less. It's the same amount. It's 8. So it's we're kind of seeing like 8-ish full art trainers per set now. In Obsidian Flames, there's only 4 because it's a really small set. 151, there's also only a couple. There's only 4. But Paradox Rift brings us back to like 8. So it's kind of like we're seeing a lot of full art trainers, a lot of like bloat in terms of that sense, and a lot of unimportant characters. For example, in like Surging Sparks, there's like a Surfer full art, which is kind of pointless. So first of all, I feel like there's just too much bloat when it comes to full art trainers. Like, full art trainers are pretty special cards, right? They're cool Pokemon cards. I think that everybody can agree that full art trainers are pretty cool. But I think there's just way too many of them nowadays. I think if we return back to like what we saw in the X and Y era with like 3 or maybe 4 full art trainers in a set, then I feel like they'd feel like a little bit more special. Like, they'd be a little bit more, interesting. And another thing is just increasing the texture on them, because back in the Black and White era, the full art trainers had this ridiculous level of texture. Nowadays, that's pretty much completely lost on modern full arts, which is really disappointing. But into my second point, which is special illustration rares. So it's so weird because it feels like, we were going in such a good direction with Crown Zenith, Scalarian Gallery. The full arts in that set are absolutely fantastic, right? You have like the Adaman, which is pretty much like a special illustration rare. The Charon's Care, same thing with that. Colress's Experiment, Cynthia's Ambition, Gardenia's Vigor, the Irida, the Melody, the Raihan, and the Roxanne. All of those feel like special illustration rares, but they don't have that tag on them. They're just Galarian Gallery cards. And I feel like that kind of distinction would be really nice for Scarlet and Violet cards, because I feel like, special illustration rare trainers are kind of, again, they're just more bloat in the set. I feel like 99% of the time when you're pulling a card, you'd rather it be a Pokemon than a trainer, just because it's, Pokemon TCG, it's not trainer TCG. So, like, for example, in Paldea Evolved, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 special illustration rare trainers, and 8 full art trainers, and that's a lot. Like, that's a lot. So, and I have nothing against the artwork themselves of the special illustration rare trainers. I feel like most of the time the artists do like a pretty fantastic job with them, but I feel like they don't really feel like special. Like, I don't know. It feels like, to me, like, special illustration rare trainers don't really feel as special as I think they should. Mainly due to the Scarlet and Violet era's like glitter pattern that they have instead of like actual texture on a lot of the alternate arts. At least it's just not as good as it used to be. But I feel like special illustration rare trainers are cool, and I feel like people like them. But I feel like a lot of the time it just feels like they're taking away slots from Pokemon in the set. Because if it was like a choice between having the same artist do like a special illustration or trainer, or that same artist doing a Pokemon, I feel like most people would probably rather that artist do a Pokemon instead. I think the most blaring example of this issue comes in our English set Paldean Fates, because in the set, it's a shiny set, right? It's a shiny Pokemon set, so I feel like you'd want shiny Pokemon to really be the main focus of the set. But in the set, there's 3 shiny Pokemon special illustration rares. There's a Charizard, a Mew, and a Gardevoir, which are great picks, and they look fantastic. But there's also 5 special illustration rare trainers, which is kind of weird, because it's supposed to be mainly about the Pokemon. So, well, are the special illustration rare trainers, are all the Pokemon shiny? No, none of them. None of the special illustration rares Pokemon are shiny, so it's like, it doesn't really feel like a shiny Pokemon set with 5 alt arts of trainers that aren't even shiny. The Pokemon in them aren't shiny, and it's just a little bit disappointing, to be honest. I'm really sad to say that I feel like shining, like Paldean Fates, is really disappointing when it comes to the special art rares, just in general, because, like I said, there's only 3 Pokemon that are shiny, that are really awesome and cool, and there's 5 trainers. Now, I do think the illustrations for those 5 trainers are actually pretty great. I love the Arven alt art, I love the Clive, I love the Iono, the Nemona's pretty okay, and the Penny's pretty okay as well. But should they really have been in Paldean Fates? That's what I'm kind of trying to ask by bringing this up, is that, should, alt art trainers really deserve to be the same classification as an alt art Pokemon, because an alt art Pokemon is obviously going to be more cared about or appreciated than an alt art trainer. Even though I personally think the trainer, like the artwork for the trainers, are gorgeous. I feel like most people would rather have like only alt art Pokemon, right? Which is what we saw in the Sword and Shield era. And that's kind of like the point that I'm bringing up, is that like I feel like people probably would just be happier if everything was all art Pokemon and we just had more all art Pokemon in every set instead of more all art trainers. Um, it's just kind of weird because when it comes to like special art rare trainers, the illustrations on them are absolutely fantastic. But considering the fact that we already have so many full art trainers, it really does kind of weigh down the sets a little bit. Like if maybe we had like 1 or 2 special art rare trainers per set instead of like 6. Like for example, let's take the new Team Rocket set. There's 6 special art rares in a set, 2 are trainers, 4 are Pokemon. That's okay. I think it's better actually in the set Heatwave Arena, where there's 5 Pokemon all arts and 1 trainer. I would prefer if every set was like that, actually, because it would make the sets, like I said, I feel like it makes the special art rare trainers a lot more special. Like for Heatwave Arena, the gold all art in that set does feel a lot more special since it's the only special art rare trainer in the set. But for Glory of Team Rocket, since there's 2 all art trainers in it, either you pick the Giovanni or the Team Rocket admin character that I don't know the name of, and it's kind of easy for me to just pick one over the other, even if the illustration for the other one is still fantastic or phenomenal. I just feel like having 1 per set makes more sense, especially for the most recent set, the Team Rocket set, the random trainer that I don't know the name of. She's already in the Giovanni card, so it would make more sense to just have another Pokemon. Because then they could have just made like a Team Rocket's Persian all art if they really wanted to do that, since they already repeat Pokemon all the time. So, that's kind of my point, is that the trainers are great. I love all art trainers, and I love what they've been doing with all art trainers. I think they're great most of the time. Most illustrations for all art trainers are fantastic. But I think they should just cut down on them, They don't need to have so many of them in every set. I think, like I said, I think what they did in Heatwave Arena was perfect. Having 5 all art Pokemon and 1 all art trainer, that's how they should do it. And if we had Paldean Fates like that, there's actually 8 all art Pokemon in that, or there's all 8 special art rares in that set in general. So think about it like this: like if we had like 6 all art Pokemon and 2 all art trainers, not only would the Pokemon feel more special because there's more of them, but the trainers would feel more special since there's less of them. It's just that kind of like thought process that I think should be applied to special art rare trainers. Pretty much a less is more approach, right? Like for example, in Twilight Masquerade, I feel like people really like. Actually, I feel like people like all 4 of the all art trainers in the set, which is great. But Lana's Aid could have been in any other set, right? We could have just seen like maybe Carmen, Kieran, and Perrin in the set, and Lana's Aid could have been moved to like a different set, right? I don't think like it doesn't deserve to exist, or I don't think any special art trainer doesn't deserve to like be a card, because I think all of them are great in their own ways, as the artists bring out the trainers in their own certain ways. But me personally, I just would prefer if we saw less special art trainers, just like what we saw with Heatwave Arena. Like if the rest of the Scarlet and Violet era, if every set was like Heatwave Arena, you would not see me talking about this. It would be a lot less prevalent of an issue for me to talk about. And the thing is like, I don't know. Like, I still love Pokemon cards regardless, but I just personally like it when there's more Pokemon than there are trainers, And that's just my opinion. If you guys have a different opinion, or you want like to share something about my take, then don't be afraid to share, because I'm totally open to conversation. I'm totally open to like talking to people about things. So that's it. That's the video. It's pretty simple, especially compared to some of my other content. Like, it's not super complex of a topic. I just think that, less is more in some senses. And I think that in this sense, less is more is perfectly approachable approach. And that's that. Anyways, guys, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.
Oh yeah, and why does Penny have 3 all arts? What's up with that?